Kat Carly from the Hub Austin.
And I'm Brenda Laurent from Reach for Success, and together we are
Mama Cat and Gigi. And today we're talking about memory. So this part of our series is called I Forgot, Improving Memory.
Memory is the foundation of all learning. So if you're having trouble with teaching your child something, you teach them and it just doesn't seem to stick, we need to go back and talk about what memory is supposed to look like.
So memory has a huge impact on the classroom, whether your classroom is just your child and you're homeschooling or schooling from home, or if you're in a class size of 30 children.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about age appropriateness. So let's talk about a 2-year-old. What should be their working memory?
2.
I want to, I don't want to. That's what makes it so challenging to work with them, right?
So if you have a child that has the terrible 2s, that's why. They only possess I want to or I don't want to. There's no other higher level of logical reasoning there.
And just so you know, for the last 20 years I've had a learning center, and it's not just all 2-year-olds who have a working memory of 2, right?
True.
So you can be older and have a working memory of 2. By 3, we should have a working memory of 3. I want to, I don't want to. Well, if I do, this might happen, right? A little more gray area, so they're a little easier to work with. By 4, they should have a working memory of 4. By 5, they should have a working memory of 5. On up until they're about 7, where for some reason in a traditional classroom, memory pretty much solidifies and stops right around 7. Now, if you look at the United States and you look at what the norm is, your credit card company and your phone company knows that the majority of Americans have a working memory of 4. And that's why they put numbers in groups of 4. Okay? But most college-educated adults have a working memory of somewhere between 7 and 9. So the faster we get our kiddos up to 7 to 9, the better off they are.
So what are some things that we can do to get our working memory up?
You know, it's interesting. We assume that children walk into a school setting and they have good memory because there's no place really in there that we actually teach it. We test for it all the time, but we don't teach it. And the amazing thing to me is it's really not difficult to teach. You can do it a lot of different ways, okay? So let's talk about some of those ways right now.
Sure. So some of the things that we really like to do are adding vision to auditory memory. So what does that mean? It means teaching our kids to create pictures in their mind. So if you're reading to your child, you can stop and say, oh, so what might that have looked like? Or, oh, what color was the hat of the guy that you just heard about? Or, just answering questions to make sure they're comprehending and also visualizing that in their mind.
Mm-hmm. That's the first step. It's the first step for reading comprehension also. And let's say I've got a child and they seem to get distracted a lot, right? So I tell them to go upstairs, brush their teeth, put on their pajamas, get a book, but they get upstairs and that's about as far as I can get with them, right? And they might do one of those other things, okay? So I like to use just a handy whiteboard, and I like to put picture with it, okay? And so I show this for a few seconds, and then I turn it around, and I say, what picture was green? Okay? So if you have a really visual child, they're going to say the toothbrush, right? And I say, well, what does that have to do with it? Well, if you've got a visual child, color and picture are two of the things that stick for them for memory. And so what I've done is I've taken an auditory sequence and I've converted it into a visual picture for them. I don't want you to do this for them until they go to college. I just want you to do it for them until they start to catch on, right?
It's something that's also really great for your more visual learners is making a picture on a note card. So if you're struggling with sight words, doing sight words with them, or you're struggling with spelling words or anything like that, having them write that down and making a picture inside of it can be really helpful. So, if the word is look, maybe there's eyeballs inside of the O's, and maybe that can tag that visually in their mind as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about just how to develop memory, right? So when we start to work on memory, we really want to work with concrete objects before we start to work with abstract things like numbers, okay? So we can work with pictures of animals. So I have a horse, I have a lion, and I have a bear, okay? So, and then I can turn those around, okay? So can you tell me backwards what I had? I had a horse, I had a lion, I had a bear, okay? So, and I have a little bit of the shape may cue that your kiddo in a little bit too, and that's okay. Let's do that as well. And then I can maybe move to color, okay? So I could have a red, and I could have something that's yellow. I could have something that's blue or green. I can have whatever colors, it doesn't really matter, right? I could have objects. And then lastly, I'm going to move to things that are abstract, like numbers and letters, okay? One of the more traditional ways to do it would be to hold up a card for a certain number of seconds. If you've got 4 digits on it, you might hold it up for 4 seconds. Then turn it around and say to the kiddo, can you tell me what the numbers were forwards and backwards? So the forwards one will help them to strengthen their attention skills, and the backwards makes them hold on to it long enough to really work with it. So we call that working memory. Okay, and so sometimes I have cards that already have numbers written on them. Sometimes I have cards that have just individual numbers, and I'm turning those over one at a time. Okay.
And you can also make these yourself really easily on a note card. And you can also do them auditorily as well. You can repeat some numbers and have them repeat back. But generally that's going to be a little bit more difficult for smaller kiddos.
And so we need to figure out where our child is. If they're only at 2, that's okay. So we want to work 2 so they feel successful, and then 3 because that's where we're trying to get to. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3.
And you'll find as they're transitioning up to the next one that they'll almost get there, or sometimes they'll get it and other times they won't. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good thing because that means they are moving their memory up to the next level.
About to. So do you know how long you should be working? So we're only going to do this until we stop being successful at it, and then we're going to stop. We're going to reward for effort and good attitude, not whether or not we've gotten up to the next one, okay? So if I work 3 minutes one time and 2 minutes the next time and 5 minutes the next time, when I add up all those 2s and 3s and 5s, we should have 1 full developmental year of gain after about 60 minutes, okay, when you add all those minutes together, okay? That's a big bang for your buck. Rarely are you going to teach something that gives you a full developmental gain of 1 year in only 60 minutes.
So make sure that it's fun. You know, these are magnets that we have, and the kids really like working with them. They like doing animals. You could also do animal sounds. And if you want to make it a little harder, you can put these on a cookie sheet so they can't see the shape. So you can slowly but surely make sure that it gets up where it needs to be. But that is also fun.
Absolutely.
And then also, do you want to talk a little bit about the Magic 6?
Oh, the Magic 6. Absolutely. So it's interesting. Auditory working memory of 6 is about the time that kids are really ready for phonics and to learn math facts. Okay? And, you know, it should go along with them turning 6 years old, right? When traditionally these things are really being taught and worked on in the classroom. And so if your child is lagging behind on some of those things, you might say, hey, is the foundation there that I really need to build all of these academics on? Because if it's not, there are programs out there that you can teach reading with a working memory of 3, but it's a lot harder. Okay, so eventually we're going to have to build that auditory memory up until 6. You'll know it's there when you can give them 6 instructions and they can actually do all 6 things.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.